Ladies and gents, welcome back to the Discerning Gamer. So I wanted to make a quick tutorial video about Vermintide 2 and specifically my favourite way to play the game so far, which is Hammer Kruber. So it's a two-handed hammer on Marcus Kruber, and I guess it would either be in the Mercenary or Foot Knight subclasses for him. So when I first started the game I thought, right, Marcus Kruber, I like him, he's great character, I like his skill set, and I want to use a two-handed hammer on him because it sort of channels Warhammer, right? Warhammer, the warrior priest of Sigmar, is a super iconic look, is an awesome weapon, and making things head explode with a sledgehammer, I mean, what more do you want? So I started out trying it and thought, this is just nowhere near as effective as a two-handed sword or a lot of the other weapons that are available to Kruber, and I thought, the game's better designed than just to have a redundant weapon in it, so what am I missing? And I just did a bit of experimentation, and I'll kind of demonstrate to you what I've come to find out here in the training dummies, which is super useful, by the way. You should test them out if you're looking at new weapons. And that's basically that you can see the fast attack for the hammer does way more damage than the powered up slow attack. You know, roughly 500 more damage on this dummy that we're seeing here. And that's basically because the overhand fast attack is about dealing damage and getting through armor, but the powered up swing actually has a much better penetration of large groups of units. So I just picked a good example from a run I did this evening to kind of illustrate that. And one thing to notice is that whenever you do any sort of swing with the hammer, it does tend to slow you down on the overhead, but you can still move quite quickly with the charged up swing, and also you can hit a rhythm with the charged up swing. So just after you've charged it up and let it go, if you pause for like a beat and then charge it up again, he will swing from the other side, so you'll get like a nice like pendulum motion going is the way I think about it. And so basically, because there is a noticeable kind of rhythm and swing between the hammers, what you need to do first and foremost is set it up so that you're going to hit all the enemies that can possibly damage you with the hammer at one time. So that means usually blocking, as we're seeing here, and pushing the enemies back, and then lining up those swings, and then you can just, once you swing them, because it's such a heavy, brutal weapon, it just stuns everything in front of you, and that way you can effectively control a crowd if you've got your positioning right in a choke point. And one thing you've got to look out for here is where there are armoured or shielded enemies inside the pack, so you have to kind of isolate them or make some measure to hit them with an overhead attack to get rid of them. And that's the other thing, is the overhead attack with the hammer is brutal. It does loads of damage against bosses and armoured enemies like various chaos warriors and the storm vermin that you see. So it actually is really versatile. It just requires a bit of kind of situational awareness, positioning and timing with the hammer, but you can get some really good use out of it. A couple of final notes about the hammer build is, of course, the subclass that you pick and the ranged weapon. So you can see here I took the blunderbuss in this particular instance, and I always take the blunderbuss with Kruber. I think when you're playing him as kind of a up the front tank crowd control style player, the coach gun is awesome because, or coach gun / blunderbuss is awesome because it can scythe through a crowd, it does loads of damage, but also you can just whip it out, and if there's a special you know, within say 15 meters of you, you can just end it in one, like I did those rattling gunners. So with a subclass, I think you have to take either the mercenary or the foot knight to really effectively use the hammer. And I honestly at this point don't really think I think it's incredibly situational. I think it works well with both of them. I prefer the foot knight just because I think he looks awesome, but also I love his ult for charging through groups of enemies, and it really gives you the versatility to use the hammer, because you can charge through a pack of enemies and then use those quick overhead swipes with the hammer, which are almost guaranteed to headshot, to take out a special, to take out an armoured enemy or something like that, and then you can turn around and crowd control with the wide sweeps. But likewise, having the extra attack speed that you get with the mercenary is only going to help with the hammer, because obviously the downtime in between swings is what's going to hurt you the most with the hammer. and also the ability to knock down and give yourself a health boost. I mean, it's just useful for your whole team, and it can buy you space if you do muck up your hammer swings and get kind of mobbed and you're out of stamina. So both are, I'd say, entirely viable, and really it's probably situational, so just go with what you prefer with that. But there is definitely something to be said for charging ahead with a Foot Knight and you know, laying down the Hammer of Sigmar on some foul heretic. And that's another point I noticed as well, is that with the charge, if you actually charge into bosses or any large enemy, it tends to stagger them, and it can also knock them down from ledges, and then that forces them to do the animation of jumping up again, which is just a great time to absolutely wail on them while they're doing that, and just get some extra breathing room, some extra damage in for the team. So hot tip there too. So I haven't actually spoken about Vermintide 2 on the channel at all. I think obviously it's a fairly high profile launch. It's done a lot better than its predecessor, which I enjoyed, and I didn't want to do like a full kind of news reviews thing on it, because I think there's a lot of other people out there covering that, and you know, perhaps I'd get lost in the crowd a little bit. However, I do really like the game. I think it's just an improvement on the first one in pretty much every way. It shows the dedication of the developer to the formula that they've gone for, the universe that they're working in, the fans that they're working with. And it's just a great game for, you know, it's got a lot of depth. As you can see from the Hammer Guide, there's a lot to consider even with just one of the weapons for one of the characters. And I think they'll probably support it really well with some DLC as they did the first game, and it's likely to be a something that I'm going to be playing regularly, and hopefully do a few more guides and stuff if this was appreciated on the channel. So do let me know in the comments below. Hop on the Discord if you want to chat, and otherwise until next time, guys.